Uncool is recorded on Audio-Technica mics. Hi listeners, it's Ling. Thank you for tuning in to the Uncool and Freelance Creative Exchange. If you would like to hear more on what we're up to in our other uncool moments, then here's another podcast to check out, Grandfather's Road. In each episode, we walk down a street that sparks curiosity. What is their history? Why they caught what they're caught? And who are the people who walked that same road? Come with me, Ling, your host, as we explore some of the streets that stand out for one reason or another. Some might be old and steeped in history. Others might be so new that you never even knew that they existed. Either way, take a step deeper into this exploratory and immersive podcast, Grandfather's Road. Now available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you listen. And now, back to the show. So if you're just joining us this week, please go back and catch up on last week's episode because this is the second episode where we are talking to multi-hyphenate Dennis TOH. So let's run this down, right? He's a tertiary education lecturer. He's published a book before. He's a financial advisor. He's multiple small business owner, and we all have the same 24 hours a day. So Dennis, why not you just introduce yourself in case I missed out any of these hyphens?
Wow.
Or you maybe you added more hyphens in the last
but actually,
1 week.
I'm also an actor. That's something that a lot of people miss out as well. But I get it a lot. That's fine. I am sometimes called a lecturer who acts, or maybe an actor who lectures as well. I'm also being called as a freelancer, maybe a businessman or entrepreneur.
Okay, so Dennis, it is a misconception then that it's very cool to be a boss, huh?
Yeah, it is. So don't be a boss.
But there's a lot of hard work that goes into being a boss.
You have to live up with the name when people call you boss, because I really hate it when people call you boss, because it feels like you have a lot of obligations and you have a lot of responsibilities that you have to take. While it sounds very nice, it puts you in a very nice stature, but the undercurrents and the underpinnings is something that you cannot imagine.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Correct. So for all the business owners, I kowtow to them because they really, really shoulder a lot of responsibilities. And the fact that now there's a lot of work culture going on, there's a lot of cancel culture going on. If you're not careful with the way they handle their communication, people can just boycott you.
It's not just boycott, it's just that they get overly sensitive and just victimize you also because, I don't like you, so I'm just going to go and complain about you or something. I'm not saying that happens, but I guess people it just allows people to do that.
So for a while, I was actually championing for ratings for customers because businesses get the ratings on Facebook and reviews and all that, right? The business owners get all these ratings and reviews, and then we get rated for numbers and all that, right? So I was actually trying to champion for customers being rated as well.
And then after that they say, hey, why? And then they feel so aggrieved and you give them very bad ratings.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that is uncool, but it's cool to be uncool, yeah? I'm just curious though, because you have so many hyphens. Has there ever been a moment in time for you where you absolutely had nothing? Like nothing worked, nothing was going for you, and yet nothing on your plate?
I mean, it could be the time when I joined Star Search. I was in the top 12 in 2001, just for your info. I went to Star Search and I really went in as the top 12 contestants. But I didn't score well because I was too young and I didn't know how to behave or rather play the game well. So I was ranked 5th or 4th, but the top
at least you weren't last.
But I think that was a time where, when I'm not signed by Mediacorp, I felt that, there's nothing left. Then after that, I went to regional marketing. Yeah, I think that was the time where I had nothing on my plate, so to speak. Yeah.
So since then, you consistently had something to do?
I think so.
And last episode, Dennis, we actually ended on this question, right? About passive income.
I think passive income is something like everyone thinks, it's important. It's very cool to have some, and they tend to romanticize it.
And I think this is something that people want to know, especially for freelancers. We tend to be very specialized in our skill set and not very business savvy. I speak for myself, I have to say.
I think the term passive income has changed over the years. When we hear of passive income in the past, it is essentially money rolling, right? While you sleep or while you are away somewhere in the beach resort.
I'm sleeping, but then I'm still making money. It's so
Money
romantic.
Yeah, it's
So
very
romantic. It's
romantic.
like,
It's a very
oh
romantic
yeah,
concept.
it's like I'm having this dinner that's paid for by my
Yeah.
passive income. And if you do it wrongly and you're unsuccessful or worse, end up losing money, then that's just not that's not very fun.
I would say in the past, if you have a blog and if you have like a website or YouTube videos and all that, when we do passive like income works, right, it is really when your blog entries are getting hit all the time and then people are going into your blog and then, AdWords will pay you, right? AdSense will pay you and then you get all this money, recurring money all the time. So it was quite possible in the early 2010, 11, 12 because back then there were a lot of bloggers that came into the scene. So they created their blogs, right, if you recall, and then they attract traffic into their blog, and then they have all these ads that are, populated through Google AdSense. And that is a form of passive income because it is permanently, stored online as well, right? Likewise, when we talk about YouTube, all right, a lot of them, they create content, right? Because the videos are there forever, so the ads pop up and then they get the recurring content. So when we say passive income, it means that you just have to produce one time and the income stream is exponential and it is scalable, all right? And that's where you do not need to do too much. Your output, right, stays there, but actually what you're getting is a lot more, right? That's a form of passive income. I would say that now the term has shaped or evolved into alternative streams, or we say just additional income streams, right? So meaning to say that we still have to work for that income, all right? And we still have to spend time, effort for the money to come as well. So what I'm seeing is that a lot of people who are doing full-time work, they're getting like a monthly salary. But at the same time, the monthly salary does not meet their needs enough, right? Because of inflation and of course rising costs and all that. So a lot of them are looking at alternative streams. So that's where they think that, oh, maybe I can have a side income. I can actually do Grab driving, right? At night or weekends.
Like a side hustle.
Yeah, a side hustle.
But
Yeah, which I met a few.
But that's not really
last
passive income,
2 weeks.
isn't it?
That's not, yeah. But in that sense, then I think a lot of them could find new alternative sources of income because of the rise of technology and social media as well. So I would say in the truest form of passive income, it is that ecosystem that you have created and that money just continue to just drop from somewhere.
So that's what you were mentioning about your first business or the Food Reflex. You had built a system and just let it run by itself, and then you would just bring money in, especially while at that time you were working already as a full-time lecturer, right? Yeah, it's entirely different as well. When you say food reflexology, I'm like, what? How did that come about?
I was actually looking at the website for at least maybe 3 to 4 weeks. So I was going into that website. It's called businessforsale.com. And I was just looking for like potential sales.
I'm very curious about this because you said you went to look around and you found a business that was for sale and you say, I'm going to buy that. And I always wonder, how does that work, right?
I was looking at cafe. I was quite crazy. I even went down to a few cafes and then to chit chat and then to see if I could buy the business as well. So I was religiously just camping myself on the website and then I was just looking at new entries, right? So when there was this entry that came, right, which is like foot massage, I thought, why not? It was like a lifestyle business and it's foot massage and it's in its coast. So I thought that I should try to meet up with the person. And because back then, I Want To was newly renovated as well. It used to be called Katong Mall or something. And I Want To was like going to open. So I saw the opportunity and I felt that that was a safe bet. And also within the vicinity, there's also a lot of new condos coming up. So I saw that, okay, there's going to be a lot of residents along that vicinity. And that's when I decided to just plunge in and sort of purchase that business.
So it boils down to being a capo and doing due diligence.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of research is needed lah. You do need to make sure that you research. But of course, I actually turned it into something that's very social as well because I created a website thereafter. I dolled up the place. I created a lot of Facebook posts and then I make it very vibrant. So you can turn something that is from a nobody to somebody, but that's where you have the marketing knowledge lah. Then you have to then brand it and then to make it something that is likable and then people will just come and support the brand.
You put your own spin on it, lah.
Yeah, put your own spin on it.
Speaking of putting on your own spin, the Uncool podcast can help you do that. Just drop us an email at contact@creatives@work.asia or slide into our DMs. Tell us your story and we'll do the rest. Now that sounds like a pretty cool idea to me.
They're like this little voice in the head saying, hey, they're selling the business. Something must be up now. Why are they selling it if it's so good to do the business and it's bringing in such a good success and good profits? Why sell it?
Definitely, I would think about that. But I would also think that I would be the one making the difference, because the one managing and, is different. She's managing it. That's why she can't handle it. But if I given to a different person, the way it's being managed is also different as well. So the deciding factor is you lah. You are the one who make a difference.
So it's not so much the business model in that sense. The business model is sound after your due diligence, right? And the location, everything was okay.
She didn't want to employ full-time employee. She didn't want to employ part-time masseurs. Back then, she had a full-time masseur, and that she kept lamenting that she didn't have help and that people come in and then there's a lot of waste opportunity. So she told me that. So then I thought that, why not just hire freelancers? I found a few, and then they just called their friends to come on weekends, and then my pool of masseurs become a lot more. So when I'm able to get more masseurs in, I'm able to cater to the growing demand on weekends as well. And that's where I'm able to match the demand and supply. And then I'm able to cover more, in a sense.
I'm very curious to know exactly how do you run a brick and mortar store nowadays, like such as your food reflexology? Because the way I look at it, I think there's many constraints, right? And many things to consider. The rental for one. Limited space, especially now, given the last 2 years, is even less than before. But there's only a limited upside you can do, because if you're full house, you're full house, and these things is labor intensive. You can only massage, in this case, foot reflexology for one person at a time, right? So how do you weigh all these things together and unpack it when you start managing such a business?
I think it is the constant struggle that you are responsible for everything, that you're responsible for CPF payment, their annual leave, their MC, their grudges, their problems, and then customers coming after you and all that, right? So you do have to really deal with everything. I think it is the constant struggle, and that was quite impacting my psyche for a while, because I was also teaching on the side and I'm also acting, and then I have to handle all these.
What's your thought about this also, right? When you're starting a business, or we call freelancers as well, you are your own business, right? I think sometimes you make it yourself, where luck comes into play. John was mentioning, Bill Gates, we all know who he is. He's one of the handful of students in the world at that point of time with access to computer, right? And then how many people had that opportunity back in the 1960s? So this gave him a head start, but not everyone had that. So luck plays a little bit of a role into this as well. What's your take on that?
I truly believe in that.
Really believe in timing and luck and these things.
Yeah, it's strange. It's strange, I didn't want to give the business away. Or rather, I don't want to sell it. Right, give up this business after 8 years. Right, it's really difficult. It's like throwing away something that I built. You see, I decided because I came to a point where I thought that I should just give up, right? And thankfully, in 2020, when I gave up, the pandemic came, and then it was actually a sign that, that was a good decision. In fact, after I sold it away and the pandemic came, the owner who bought it was complaining lah. Of course, they had to manage it. Right? I can't imagine myself managing it in the midst of that circuit breaker and all that. But I was able to really be in a very cleansed mode. I left with not much of obligation, because when you are a business owner, you have a lot of things that you have to consider, because there's laws, there's also CPF, there's all these regulators coming after you, employees and all that. So when you give up the business totally, I felt that I was a freed man. Yeah. I mean, that actually allowed me to do more in other stuff. That was a good decision because after that, I was really able to focus just on my teaching and acting. In fact, my teaching obligations became more. And as a net impact to my wealth, right, it actually grew a lot more than when I'm managing a few things. You know what I mean? Yeah, so when you give up something, it allowed me to really focus, and that I was able to then grow my wealth in a sense. So the timing is very interesting. That's why my previous boss keeps saying that in life it is about timing, and also it's different seasons for different reasons. I think that's so true.
Oh, that
You
is
have
so
different
true.
seasons
Yeah.
in your life.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I believe that all these elements that are out there do play a part in who we are and shaping who we are today, the people that we meet, the law of attraction, and I think our own psyche, what we are actually trying to attract. All these play a part. So luck is definitely like true concept that it's like applicable to all the different professions out there. You could jump into a new position and then you can meet the mentor of your life. You could land yourself a role with the right director, and then you catapult into instant stardom. You could work for the rest of your whole life and still be a B-list actor. That's also possible. So really depends on where you start, how you start, who you meet, and then the different elements all coming together. So that's a very abstract
So,
notion that you're talking.
but how do you create something like that though?
How do we navigate, or how do we
how do you create or
orchestrate, right?
navigate and orchestrate your own luck and so on?
But you must also be a person who is ready to accept that opportunity at that same time, right?
We have to be prepared for the opportunity to come. And in order for us to be prepared, we always have to get ready, right? So the get ready is always, we can't be just standing aside and then just thinking that, waiting for the opportunity to knock. But we have to harness our skills, learn, upgrade, and sort of network and all that. And then once the opportunity strikes, then you know that you have taken the opportunity well, in your own way. But of course, as what Sean has asked, I think sometimes you do have to orchestrate a little bit. That's why you need to plan. You need to be strategic about it. You need to know what are your choices. Like for example, an actor cannot be constantly going for a feature role or beat role, because the more you do that, the more you're being cast for a particular kind of set of work, right? You need to understand the game as well. I mean, as an actor, you go in, you need to understand that this is a business that you need to also navigate. It is not so much the passion for acting, but you need to treat yourself as a business as well, because you are also being used, by dramas and by producers for numbers, for viewers as well, for views as well. So sometimes we can't be too passionate about certain things, right? We do have to understand that a lot of things are also due to commercial forces. So no point just barking on the wrong tree and then get upset about it.
Well, I think on the note of commercial forces, it's also a lot to do with resources, right? I mean, if you look at Bill Gates, the computer was available to him in his school because his parents bought it for the school, and then so he had access to it, and that gave him a head start in computing, and the rest is history. Then if you look at, let's say, like Berkshire Hathaway, he ever said sometime back, I think in 2013, he said that at one of the shareholders meetings, that if you actually removed a few of the top investments that Berkshire Hathaway did, right, the long-term track record is actually pretty average. It's not extraordinary, but because of the top investments, it looks really good. So having said that, these are situations whereby they are coming from a position where especially for Berkshire Hathaway, you can get majority of the opportunities wrong to find that few that work, right? But the reality is that for most of us, there's only 2-3 opportunities, and then it all runs out and we have none. How would you go about finding making full use of the 2 or 3 opportunities you're going to get in life?
What you said is so true, but also very pessimistic.
It is.
But
I mean, we are comparing ourselves, ordinary people, to guys who with all this resources is not a problem for them, right? And so they're like, oh yeah, I've had majority of my things I failed, but look, before I found this thing that works so well. But how you had the luxury to fail many times. But Yan Ling and we can't fail many times. You have 2 or 3 failures before I've got nothing left no more money or no more resources to
this is the same
fail.
metaphor when we say the big becomes bigger because of the fact that they are already big, and then we say that the big 5 tech companies are dominating the world because they are so big, and then they are just eating up all the smaller fishes. Then we talk about the divide, and also we talk about the world is getting very, very lopsided as a result of that. I think that is so true at this point. So I do think that internet or social media do make a difference here as well, because we saw that a lot of things have been leveled. We saw that there's a lot of balance of play, a lot of balance of power as a result of social media and technology. We saw that there's a lot more voices. We saw that people are given more rights, all right, and that the anti-establishment movements have become a lot more stronger. So things have changed, I would say, and that while we say that the traditional forces are still there, where the political elites or people with certain kind of power are still dominating the world scene, I do see that the smaller fishes or the players are also, being more active, right? And they are actually making a difference as well. So I think it's a matter of people in privileged positions also knowing that despite the fact that they are privileged, they do need to do their part, all right, in moving the narratives of the world as well. I mean, look at Elon Musk, right? He is someone who is shaping and changing the narratives. He's rich, right? But I think he's also doing things that are trying to rock the system, all right? But of course, there are certain wealthy people who are not doing as much, or who I think should do more. But I think it's a question of whatever you're given. Like if life gives you lemons, then you just make sure that you create whatever good drinks that you can create. So what throws onto you, then you make do with that and then create something that's magical. So what you said is true. I think we can't change too much about the system of the world, but if you are given 2 chances, then make sure that you make good use of these 2 chances. If you're given 10 chances, then make sure that you make good use of these 10 chances. If you're not given any chance, then you create your own chances. It's just this never say die attitude, as cliche as it sounds. You just have to continue to just work towards that. Just try to open the door for yourself. When I was maybe 29, 30, I was actually traveling quite a bit to do regional marketing. So I was working for Panasonic and I traveled extensively. I didn't see exponential increase in my wealth. As you all know, right, as we work for corporate companies, we work so hard and then the bonus don't come, the promotion don't come, and then all the salary increment don't come as well. I won't say upset, but I just felt that something got to change, right? My modus operandi has to change. I always felt that, that's the only way to earn money. Actually, I think the pivotal part was when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. So it's still based on reading, based on this concept that was given or passed down, and it just opened my mind, and it was like, eureka moment. And then I started to think of possibilities. Then I think of lecturing. I think of opening up a business. Then I went on to do many other things as well. So I think it was that period of time when I constantly felt that I was putting a lot of work, but I don't get a lot of returns, right? In terms of everyone was working so hard. We had to go in there 8 a.m. and then we knock off at 9 p.m. Because the director was driving us nuts. Of course, he's really a good mentor, but he was really training all the young minds to work so hard for him. Right back then, during the Panasonic time, Sony time, it was the electronics war, right? So if you recall, the DVD players and recorders and plasma TV, those times, we had to work very hard. So I then realized that I have to change my modus operandi, and that's how I changed.
What is the tenure that you put when Dennis To invests his money?
Invest in making sure that you become better as a person. Because if you invest in yourself, then you have better judgments, you have better connections, you have better relationships, you have more wisdom, right? But that aside, I think it depends on the area that you are interested in. So, of course, you look at broad pictures. For example, you look at what industry is thriving, right? So in certain industry, it is doing well, and that's where you potentially want to also invest. That's more like, when you do stock pick, right? If you want to, find the right shares to invest in, then you look at which industry is growing, the GDP that's contributing and all that. So that's generally the big picture. Of course, the small picture is if you look at, people who are managing the business, the employees, the reputation it has on social media or traditional media, then if generally they have good vibes, right, amongst the various stakeholders, then I think that's a good pick as well. Yeah, I think that's generally how I would invest. Yeah.
And right now, I think you are very passionate about helping, and I think I'm quoting from LinkedIn here, helping small business owners boost sales, build credibility, and create a powerful presence Using a low cost, high impact
Getting them
publicity
to
and
hire
social
my
media methods.
service. That's a way of getting them to hire my service, by the
So,
way.
without revealing too much of your trade secrets, why do you think that this is important actually? That this helping them to using low cost, high impact publicity and social media methods and other tools.
I think one of the main reasons why I was able to do well with my foot massage business was that I came with a marketing background. I did PR myself. I networked with some journalists back then, and I was quite involved in the scene as well. So I was able to apply all these little concepts in my own business. For example, I started my own social media contest. I hired influencers to come to my shop, and then I was able to use very cheap methods to get the results. So I was able to see the real results because I sort of apply it in my own business. But I realized that a lot of business owners right now, they didn't come with the marketing learning or the education. So they hire a lot of people, right? Or they hire agencies or they hire freelancers to do that. But a lot of times, these freelancers and agencies, they are filled with younger people as well. They might not have the real business experience, right? So sometimes they hire them, but it is also for the employees from the agency to learn, right? Which is quite costly, right? Because if you hire them and then they are actually learning and then they're trying out, it is a cost to your business, right? So why not I offer my service who is someone who have done something similar to them. I understand their problems, their issues, and I know how to fix it for them as well. So I'm able to replicate some of the things that I did for them. And I think small business owners need that, And that's why I wrote that book, 101 Ways to Get Publicity, which is also a way to get them to understand that publicity is so important, especially if they want to push out their brand or they want to market themselves. Yeah.
So you're basically saying you're saving them costs of having to train people from scratch or hire.
Yeah. And out there are a lot of all these so-called gurus, right? I'm sure you know the internet gurus, the marketing gurus who are trying to get leads, all right? And they create a lot of all these content and campaign to get the business owners to use their services. But a lot of times, they don't get the results they want.
It was not so much about you getting a new skill. It was not you, like landing into something new. It was basically using whatever you had on hand already, all your skill sets that you already had, all the know-how, and doing things that you're already doing anyway, and just reapplying them in different ways and at different points.
In a way, the more I teach, the more I learn. The more I give services to people, the more I try to meet different people from different verticals or industries, the more I also learn as well. I get paid for learning. And also, it works for me. I mean, you're right to say that, I'm using whatever I have to sort of carry on this whole, I don't know how to describe it, but it's this whole idea about what I do and my services.
On the note of building verticals and future, how will you build for the future, especially since we've seen a whole host of new territories coming out, like Web 3.0, for example? What does all of that mean to you?
Interestingly, I've been also teaching that. And that we've been researching on the disruption that is coming from the tech companies. We have been discussing on algorithm, big data, surveillance to privacy to surveillance capitalism and all these things.
Yeah. So how's that really going to impact the future, especially for the creative industry and for all of us freelancers who are about to work in the industry?
I definitely think that a lot of the creative people have to tap onto technology and social media. I think in the past, a lot of actors tend to be very passionate about their craft and they say, oh, I just want to do acting for dramas and, film and all that. But increasingly, we also see that a lot of people are becoming like influencers, doing live streaming and all that. It is something that we all have to adapt and that we have to tell ourselves that if we don't change, right, all these tech forces, when they become big in a way, they would change our livelihood, right? So I think that foresight to be fast enough to also adapt and then to see, as these big tech companies change, what are some possibilities? As we speak, we already see like in China, live streaming is a big thing, all right? Digital payments, and as you said earlier, esports and, all these live streaming. So there are new forms of communications and new forms of entertainment that's coming up, all right? And that if we don't adapt in any way, we will lose out. So it applies to not just an actor, but a producer, to a director, to anyone who's in, journalism or even writing.
I think for sure, because if you look at job classifieds nowadays, and the way classes are scheduled, it's like they're not just teaching you to be a journalist, or they're not just teaching you to be a director or something. They also want you to be an editor, cameraman, a videographer, or if you're a journalist, digital videographer and editor. And it's like, how can you? But it's very romanticized, right? That someone can do 3-4 jobs at the same time, and all these are all very labor intensive actually. It's very labor intensive to do media. It's very intensive to be in the creative industry.
Where you need some kind of creativity, it still cannot be taken by robots or algorithm or big data lah. But we already see that, when it comes to journalism, there are articles that are written by algorithms and just AI, artificial intelligence. These are all writers who can write as well. When we talk about future technologies and the potential ramifications, there's a possibility that a lot of all these jobs will be taken over. And we have to be ready for it lah. So obviously, I guess for creative people, we do have to find new ways to make ourselves more relevant. Yeah.
But from your financial advisor point of view though, and you look at the way the finance economies are working, you look at the blockchains, you look at cryptos, you look at just generally the way people now invest in the different products out there. How do you see all this future tools impacting that future, the future economies?
Yeah, I think blockchain is definitely a key thing. There are also a lot of knee-jerk reactions that we are seeing, right? Cryptocurrency, NFTs. The younger people are very tuned to that, right? Even for us, we are still trying to figure out what's that. But a lot of them are very fast to jump in the bandwagon. So these are all new forms of investment opportunities, and that if we are early in the game, sometimes if we hold on for a longer time, we can see the results, right? That's the speculation for cryptocurrency. So it's just a matter of whether you feel that that's going to grow big, right? And then whether you want to also participate in terms of making it big as well. Likewise for YouTube, TikTok, right? Those who are now in the game, they see that they are able to sort of monetize their own work and platforms as well. So we have to see what's happening, and then of course try to also see if that's something that you want to do lah.
Basically, you cannot wait until it happens and then by that time it's a little bit too late. You have to put yourself in that position to be open to those opportunities when they come by. Because once they're in front of you and then you start preparing and then it's too late, it's past already.
Yeah. Don't be a laggard.
Don't go have FOMO.
Yeah, don't FOMO lah.
Because if once you start to FOMO and then a few things can happen, right? It's either you are late and then you catch the falling knife, or in using money terms, or you just end up losing sleep because you're like, oh, I sold already, then the price went up another 100%, and then you start to have all this seller's regret and all that. So I think don't FOMO, but that's easier said than done, of course, because information is so available nowadays, right? Easily available that
and everything is so uncertain nowadays. Things can change really day to day, minute to minute, sometimes you will see. But speaking about the future and the uncertainty of it, freelancers, the future usually not, to a lot of them, it seems more uncertain than most, right? Who might have a stable job. What advice would you give to a freelancer, especially when they approach their finances and money and how they think about money?
Yeah, I think that is a very tough question for freelancers. So don't start too young to be a freelancer. If you are young, 20s, try to hold on to some full-time job. I feel that it is important to really have full-time job experiences for at least 3 to 5 years. And then, of course, with that regular income, you save up, right? So that you have some base to begin with. But if you really want to be a freelancer and that it works for you, I think there's no harm about it, because at different juncture, you have different priorities as well, right? Freelancing allows you to also take care of other areas of your life. For example, taking care of your aged parents, or maybe taking care of kids. When you are a freelancer, there's a lot of other uncertain parameters, right? For example, even for myself, as a part-time lecturer, I am a freelancer and I could be cut anytime. And I had to prepare myself for not being able to be given that contract once again. So when you are a freelancer, then you got to make sure that you keep all these alliances close. People who hire you for a reason, you need to make sure that you do a job well for them. You have your posts a report done for them or whatever, make sure that they see that you're doing a good job, and then they will continue to hire you, right? Sometimes people want to hire you because of convenience sake, right? Because it's that system that is already repeating itself, and you find that if you fall into that kind of system, then just go with it, right? But sometimes if the boat is rocked and then there's some change or that they need to rehire and all that, then of course that your livelihood is at stake. Then make sure that you have multiple livelihoods lah, and then of course understand that there's always demand and supply, right? Is there a lot of demand for your kind of services? So choose the kind of freelancing work that works for you.
So here's the question that we ask all our guests, right? So do you think, first of all, that moment in time that was your most uncool? If not, when was the most uncool? And what would you say to yourself then?
I think the most uncool period of my life was when I was in my tertiary education. I was doing my poly in Ngee Poly. And I was always the person who is like not attending school, and I didn't like school too much. Quite strange, right? Because I turned out to be someone who is like talkative and also being a lecturer and actor, right? But back then I was actually not socializing with a lot of people. I always go to lecture hall and I was hanging out at the back, and then I was not the cool kid, So I think that was the uncool period. Yeah.
So what would you say to yourself if you could right now?
I would just say, just be who you are, because I want to change things. I think things happen for a reason, and that how I was back then made me who I am today. I think things happen for a reason, right? And then I just would tell myself that, I think it's good that you kept quiet back then, or not being cool back then,
Life is a journey, there's always up and downs, right? So if people want to find you, moving forward on your socials, or they're looking for services, they're maybe a small business owner, they need some of your marketing essence, where can our listeners do that?
Wow, they can go to influencersg.com. That will be if you are looking at hiring influencers or getting social media services for your business. My personal website is imdennisto.com. If you are a director, if you're a casting person, that's where you can go and see my reels and, my works there. If you want to just know what I do, then just go to my social, which is IG, Dennis TOH SG. Yeah.
Dennis, one word?
Dennis TOH SG, yeah. All this self-promoting, I'm not used to it, but...
Don't worry, we will help you promote it then. This is our whole point. We're all for shameless publicity over here. If you want to hear from our other guests coming up in our new episodes or catch up on our old episodes, do drop us a like and remember to click follow on our podcast. Also, tell your friends about us. Drop us a 5-star rating. This is my shameless promotion, okay? Because it will really help us on all levels. So do it without worries, because we know it is cool to be uncool.
Hi friends, if you have listened up to here, then we'd like to say a massive thank you. Thank you for your support for the Uncool podcast. This is the 3rd edition and we hope that we can do more. So, if you have any ideas about what stories we can tell next, or any suggestions on how we can do better, then we want to hear it. Contact at creatives@work.asia is the place to tell us. Of course, you can always just drop us a DM. And until we are back with the 4th edition, remember that sometimes it's cool to be uncool.
Uncool was recorded on Audio Technica mics.